Hi friends, welcome back to Amy Bakes. I'm Amy and today we are going to make a no-bake Nutella pie. This one is so good that my older son says that we should call it proposal pie. And since we're so close to Valentine's Day, I think that's what we're going to call it. This one is so easy, no matter what your skill level in the kitchen is, anyone can do this one. So let's go over our supplies and ingredients. We are going to need 25 Oreos or Oreo style cookies. My store had put Oreos on sale and they sold out of all of them. So I had to get the store brand. So 25 Oreo style cookies. You're going to need 5 tablespoons of melted butter. You're going to need a 13-ounce jar of Nutella. You're going to need 8 ounces of softened cream cheese. And you're going to need a little bit of vanilla. You will also need some heavy whipping cream, a little bit of powdered sugar, and 8 ounces of semi-sweet chocolate chips. For our supplies today, we are going to need a stand mixer, and we're going to use both the whisk and the paddle attachment. You're going to need a pie plate, 9 inches good. You're going to need a whisk, spoon, rubber spatula, saucepan, an extra bowl, and a measuring cup. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is make our crust. And in order to do that, we're going to need 5 tablespoons of butter, so about right there. And we're just going to melt that in the microwave. Now, if you've been around long enough, you know my rule. If you're going to melt butter in the microwave, you have to cover it because it will explode. So we're just going to cover that with a paper towel. Put a little crease in there. There we go. Then we're just going to melt that. Okay, we're going to need 25 cookies, and there are 12 in each row. So we're just going to stick them in a plastic bag. If you have a food processor and you want to do them that way, that's great. If you don't have a food processor, just use one of these little plastic bags and you're good to go. So the 25, if I can get them out, they don't want to come out. So if we want to get 25 cookies, that's actually not a complete package. So you'll have a few extra cookies to snack on while you're making this pie. And the last little cookie. I'm going to squeeze out some of the extra air here. And then what you're going to do with a rolling pin, if you have one, you're just going to beat the tarnation out of these cookies. Now, if you don't have a rolling pin, that's okay. You can use your Nutella, or you can just go grab any canned soup, canned green beans, whatever you've got. And you're just going to smash these cookies down. Okay, I'm just going to feel around on here and see if there's any large crumbs. I still feel a few, so we're just going to knock those out. There we go. And just make sure that this is nice and crumbled down like sand. That's the texture you're going for. Flip it over, roll it again, and then we're going to add our melted butter. So see, you don't even have to have special equipment to make this one. You can use a can of soup if you need to. Now we just dump that into a bowl, and you can see that's a great texture. And now we're going to just add our melted butter. There we go. And then we're going to mix this in really good. And then we're going to put this into our pie shell. This looks really good. Now we're just going to transfer this into the pie crust, or pie shell. And we are going to press that down. You're going to want to go up on the sides a little bit and fill in the bottom. Just lightly pressing. Make sure there's no holes. There you go. Okay, this is ready, and you can see I've gone up around the sides, and then I've also covered the bottom. So what we're going to do is we are going to put this in the freezer while we make the filling. Okay, now we're going to work on our filling, and it's actually going to be done in 2 parts. We're going to need to do some whipped cream, and we're going to use the whisk attachment for that. Now, if you don't have a stand mixer, or if you just don't have the confidence that you can do this, then that's okay. There is a backup plan. You can also use 8 ounces of Cool Whip. So if you don't want to do the heavy whipping cream or you don't have the equipment, I got you. There's a backup plan. So you can choose either way. We're going to go ahead and do it with a heavy whipping cream. So what we're going to do is we are going to need 1 cup of heavy whipping cream. And we're going to go ahead and stabilize that. And what I mean by stabilizing is sometimes when you do whipped cream, it'll kind of weep and separate. And then you kind of, it almost deflates and you can gets like separates and you can see some water. So what we're going to do is we're going to add 1 tablespoon roughly of powdered sugar to our heavy whipping cream. Now, if you were making this up a few days in advance, and let's say you needed maybe 48 hours, then you're going to need to do a little bit more than powdered sugar. You would need to add a teaspoon of cornstarch as well, and that would stabilize your whipping cream and keep it from separating. So it's the rule of 1. It would be 1 cup of whipping cream, 1 tablespoon of powdered sugar, and 1 teaspoon of cornstarch if you need it for more than just 24 hours. So now we're just going to whip this up. Okay, that is a great consistency. You don't want to over whip this because you don't want to turn it into butter. But as you can see, that's a great consistency. Kind of looks a little bit like Cool Whip. That's about the consistency you want to go for. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this because I'm going to reuse this bowl. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to set it aside here and put it in the fridge while we make the rest of the filling. Okay, I went and put my paddle attachment on. I'm not even going to worry about washing out the bowl because all of this is going to get mixed together anyways. So we're going to put our softened cream cheese in there. That's 1 brick or 8 ounces rather. And then we're going to put in a 13-ounce jar of Nutella. And then we're going to blend this together. We're going to add a little bit of vanilla. About a teaspoon's worth. But y'all know how to measure vanilla, right? You really won't need a measuring spoon because with vanilla, we're just going to measure it with our soul. A little bit more. There we go. I'm going to get the rest of this Nutella in there, and then we're going to mix it all together. And mix this in, and you might have to stop and kind of scrape down the sides. Now we're going to fold our whipping cream into here and mix it up really good until it's fully incorporated and you don't have any little streaks of whipping cream. Okay, I got the pie shell out of the freezer and look how beautiful this looks. And then what we're going to do is put this in here. And then we're going to put this in the refrigerator, and this is going to sit for about 4 hours to set. And we are going to go ahead and make a ganache topping for it. Because while this is great on its own as Nutella no-bake pie, we are going to take it up a notch because this is proposal pie. So it's got to be better. So we are going to add a chocolate ganache to take it to that next level. We're going to smooth that out. Doesn't that look beautiful? There we go. Now we're just going to set this in the refrigerator. I'm going to go ahead and get the ganache going, and we're just going to put this in the fridge while it waits. The next step is the ganache, and what you're going to do is you're going to use 1 cup of heavy whipping cream, and you're going to put that on medium heat, and you're going to want to just lightly whisk this, and what we're looking for is we want to see bubbles forming around the edge. You don't want to bring this to a complete boil. You just want to see those bubbles. And you do want to be sure that you do stir it, because if you just turn the heat on and walk away, the heavy whipping cream will scorch. So just lightly whisk it and watch for those bubbles. Okay, as you can see, we've got the little bubbles, and that's all we want. So we're going to turn the heat off, And then we're going to take this and pour this right over our chocolate chips. And that was 8 ounces of chocolate chips. And then just cover that and let that sit for about 1 minute. All right, now what we're going to do is whisk this together. You do want to be sure to cover it and let that set because that starts the chocolate chips melting and makes this process much easier. Ganache seems kind of difficult. It seems a little intimidating actually, but really when you see how easy it is, 2 ingredients, super simple. Look at that. Look how beautiful that is. Now we don't want to pour this directly onto our pie because this is still pretty warm. And the fun thing about ganache is it's pretty liquidy now, okay? But as that begins to cool, it'll thicken. So what I'd like to do is just let this sit for about 30 minutes to an hour, and then we're going to check the thickness of it, and then we're going to pour it over the top of our proposal pie. Okay, it has been 30 minutes, and I stirred this up, kind of gave it a good whisk about every 10 minutes, and then I've had it in the fridge for about 10 minutes. So it's starting to set up nice and thick. It's cool to the touch, so I'm not so worried about pouring it on here. I don't want it to completely thicken because then it won't pour on there nice at all. This is nice. It's kind of starting to set up very well too. So I am going to pour the ganache on. And then we're just going to even that out. And then we will put this back in the refrigerator and have this to set up for the rest of the 4 hours. So about 3.5 hours. So if you're on the fence and you're thinking, gosh, should I make this? The answer is yes. You make this no-bake pie. You need to make this pie. If you're thinking about it, you need to make this pie. If you're not sure, you need to make this pie. Bottom line, go make this pie. You will not regret it. If you do, leave me a comment. Let me know how yours turned out. Valentine's Day is just around the corner, so it's the perfect dessert for Valentine's Day. Hope you make this one. Let me know what you think about it. Okay, guys, here it is. It is so good. You ready? What do you think?
Good.
That's good?
Good.
Okay, it's really good.
That's good.
You got to make this one. Run to the store right now, get your ingredients, and make this pie.